Hello and welcome to Alien Interview and others. As I promised in my previous upload, I'd be making a video about some really interesting, albeit strange, alien encounters. I was going to make this video entirely about the odd alien interview videos, but realized that I could fit in a few other encounters as well. As you know, I like to change up topics throughout the month, so today would be the perfect time for revisiting aliens and UFOs. However, before starting this video, I did want to mention that a few weeks back, I stated that I couldn't find a particular cryptid photo, and even showed everyone a hand-drawn version I had made. The response was fantastic, and within a few minutes of posting the video, I started having viewers sending me the photo. Here it is, and a huge thank you goes out to Grim Thang, who messaged me first, and then was followed up by NASA Jack, Tony Hernandez, Ryan Mystic, Gerald Mahoney, Spencer Robertson, Joss Asselman, and finally, Girk McGurk. Thank you all so much, and apparently the original photo claimed that this was a chupacabra that had been killed in Brazil. If I missed your name, I sincerely apologize, and if you let me know in the comments, I will mention it next week. By the way, I think this photo wasn't edited, but I think it might actually show something a little more canine. Alright. Let's talk about aliens. The first story that I would like to talk about is called the Oakley Moor Alien. Oakley Moor is located in West Yorkshire, England, and this area isn't a stranger to the paranormal. For years, people have claimed to see odd lights in the sky, and there have been some fairly recent stories involving an unknown craft. On October 29, 1991, two men were nearing the area of West Rock, when they claimed to have seen a huge 15-foot across ball of light hovering above the ground. As the men saw the craft, it started to lunge at them, which caused the men to run. They stated that it chased them for a quarter mile until it vanished as they neared Oakley. According to their story, they managed to run that distance in 10 minutes, but that trip should have taken over half an hour. While no contact was mentioned, many feel that the men may not have escaped the craft, but instead had been abducted. This story is fairly interesting, but the most fascinating one occurred on December 1st in 1987. A retired police officer named Philip Spencer had decided to walk to his father-in-law's house early that morning. Before making the trip, he brought a camera with him in order to hopefully catch a few shots of the famed lights that people had been seeing. While walking along the moor, he spotted a strange-looking being up the path, emerging from the morning fog. James snapped this picture before the creature turned and started to run away. Curiosity got to the better of Mr. Spencer, and he decided to chase after the being. Much to his shock, as he crested a hill, he saw what he described as an unknown craft with a dome on top rise from the ground and shoot off into the sky. Philip said that he didn't have the thought to take a picture of the UFO. While I may question this, I suppose if you are expecting to see one thing and then come across another thing, it may leave you dumbfounded. Not to mention that a lot of people step forward to back Philip's credibility and state that he wasn't known to make up stories. As an interesting twist, the compass they had been carrying was now pointing south when it should have been pointing north, and according to his watch, he had lost an hour of time. When the photograph was developed, it did show a strange-looking being. The image was then studied by professionals, and they say it is genuine. There are claims that what the photo actually shows is an insurance broker who is visiting clients in the outskirts of town. Although I will say when the photo is enhanced, it doesn't look human. Forgetting about the UFO, the insurance broker explanation doesn't give an answer to Philip's compass being messed up, nor his loss of time. Although, he could have lost track of time during the whole event. Most rule this out as a hoax or misidentification, but it is worth mentioning that Philip never received a dime for his encounter or photo, and in fact gave away all the rights for free. Moving on to our next story, we have an incident from Dayton, Texas. On December 29, 1980, Betty Cash and Vicki Landrum and her 7-year-old grandson Colby were heading home after eating dinner. They were heading down the road at 9 p.m. when they started to notice odd lights shining through the tops of the trees. At first, the women assumed that they were just seeing simply an airplane heading to the nearby Houston Intercontinental Airport. After a few minutes of travel, they saw the light again, but this time it appeared to be hovering over the road at treetop height in front of them, and it had the shape of a diamond. Unlike most UFO sightings, this craft actually had visible exhaust ports underneath that were shooting out intense flames. They stopped the car and the two women stepped out to get a closer look. It was in this moment that Colby started to freak out and Vicky returned to the car to comfort him. Meanwhile, Betty stayed outside and was able to get a better view of the craft. She claimed it was silver in color, it had a flat top and bottom, and it had multiple small blue lights around the center. It appeared that the UFO was having issues staying aloft, as it would slowly float down, but then blast out immense fire to raise it back up again. These flames were so hot that they claimed that the metal body of their car became excruciatingly painful to the touch. So much so that when Betty finally returned to the vehicle, she had to wrap her hand in a coat in order to operate the latch. Once inside, Vicky stated that the heat caused the vinyl dashboard to become soft, and she was even able to leave her handprint in it. This whole encounter lasted 20 minutes before, oddly enough, the women saw 23 Boeing CH-47 Chinook helicopters approaching the craft and chasing it off. This story doesn't end here, since later that night, once home, all three started to suffer the same symptoms of nausea, diarrhea, weakness, feeling as their eyes were burned, and their skin feeling burnt as well. Betty, the one who stayed outside the car the longest, received the worst symptoms, as she started to have blisters on her skin and patches of her hair began to fall out. Things took a turn for the worse as she finally was brought to the hospital on January 3rd with the inability to walk. Betty spent quite a few weeks in the hospital, and there are claims that her symptoms matched radiation poisoning. Both women felt the military were involved with their sighting and decided that they should be responsible for their damages. They eventually lost their case since they couldn't prove that the military actually owned a diamond-shaped craft. However, many investigations were started, including one by Lieutenant Colonel George Saran from the Department of Army Inspectors General in 1982. With his study, he found that on that same night, a Dayton police detective named Lamar Walker and his wife did in fact see 12 CH-47 Chinooks heading towards the sighting area at about the same time the women claimed to see them. The only thing is that there aren't any military reports of anything occurring in that area on that night. One sticking point for skeptics with the story was if the women's physical ailments were from the craft or if they had already been in an existing condition. No one could find an answer to this, but a document from Betty's doctor stated that her hair loss was the result of a possible autoimmune disease. Symptoms aside, there isn't anything taking away what those three people saw, and what the detective and his wife saw that night. Although, in playing devil's advocate, I don't think that Betty and Vicky saw an alien craft that night. What I think they encountered was actually a military-engineered craft. With how it was being propelled, it doesn't fit with most UFO sightings, and if it was having trouble staying afloat, it probably wasn't built for space travel. The fact that the military sent helicopters rather than fighter jets leads me to believe that their role was more of an escort mission rather than to intercept an unknown craft. It almost goes without saying that if this is the case, then something like this would certainly be in a top secret file somewhere. Being I'm a construction worker who works around oxyacetylene torches and welders frequently, most of their symptoms could be explained as well. Their eye problems sound a lot like welder's flash, and if it was as bright as they were saying it was, then it probably caused their eye issues. Intense light obviously can cause burning of the skin as well. Now, with the weakness and nausea, there is a simple answer here as well. If the craft was using flames for its exhaust, that means it was burning some type of fuel. If these women were exposed to the residual fumes for about 20 minutes, that they claim, then I could see some type of carbon monoxide poisoning or something similar, which does cause weakness, nausea, and other ailments. But those are just my simple opinions on the matter, and I could be wrong. The moment you have been waiting for is the so-called Gray Alien interview. This topic was suggested by a subscriber named Hydralisk, and they wanted me to make it part of the Real vs. Real series. Thank you so much for the suggestion, and I must say that I love your name's reference to the video game StarCraft. This is one of the reasons I love my community so much, since I completely forgot about these videos existing, and now I get to talk to you about it. Okay, I can't make this a real versus real, but I'll do my best to glean some information from it. I really had to dig to find the versions you were asking for, since there are a few copycats out there. This clip is only a segment of what is said to be an actual 7 full video reels of footage. So here it is. Now, what is interesting is that this wasn't the first video that was published. In fact, there was one prior that showed a UFO as well. As the story goes, it never states where the videos are supposed to be from, other than that they were recorded between 1942 and 1969. We are given the impression that they have been smuggled out or filmed with a hidden video device. Now, another clip was uploaded later that claimed to show aliens arriving for a meeting with military officials, and it is labeled Family Vacation. Okay, so as I stated in the beginning, finding these videos again proved fairly more difficult than I had planned. However, they were uploaded to a channel on YouTube under the username Ivan0135. There are only 4 videos on the channel, and the first one was uploaded on April 13th, 2011, the interview was on May 2nd, one about documents was on May 9th, and finally the family vacation was posted on May 17th. All 4 videos are less than 2 minutes long, with the majority of the time being taken up by discussing the backstory behind each clip. All the uploads did fairly well, view-wise, but even as such, nothing has been uploaded in the past 9 years. In fact, the Ivan0135 channel appears to have been created on the same day that the first video was posted. Things like this throw up warning flags for me, but even in the videos it explains that the person wished to remain anonymous, and what better place to get your videos seen than YouTube. As far as what the videos appear to show, it is hard to discern. Obviously in 2011 it would be possible to create things using CGI, but is that what we are looking at? I know most knee-jerk reactions is that it would be either CGI or puppetry, but nothing is blatantly saying that. The only things I noted while viewing them again is that the blinking seemed kind of strange, but who's to say how an eye as big as that would look like blinking in real life? The other oddity is that it appears the interview clip was slowed down for some apparent reason. If you increase it to 1.5 times speed, the seconds shown on the film actually match a normal second. I really can't understand why this was done, other than the movement seems less natural at a quicker speed. Was this done to hide something? I don't know. What really makes me puzzled is the fact that these videos were fairly successful for a channel just starting out, and if they were fake, I would have assumed we would have seen more uploads than just 4. Especially since it is stated that the clips you just saw were only a small portion of 7 videos that were each 180 minutes long. Not to mention that you have to really look hard to find these videos, since the more popular, and dare I say, more fake looking, because they are, versions come up more frequently. So at the end of the day, we are left with more mysteries than answers when it comes to this video. Are they real? I'll let you decide. What happened to Ivan0135? Was he just making these to show his work for a possible CGI or puppetry position in movie making? Or was he really a whistleblower that was silenced? Your guess is about as good as mine. Again, I must thank Hydralisk for reminding me of these videos. They really are something else. So I hope you really enjoyed this, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on each encounter. I'm really interested in reading your impressions on the alien interview video and see if you noticed something I didn't. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may be interested in this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!